Welcome to Mindless Entertainment. My name is Jesse Milestone, and last night I got to go see Alita Battle Angel. So I want to talk about that a little bit today. Now I'm going to start out, I like to do my reviews 50-50, so the first half is going to be totally spoiler-free. I'm not going to give anything, major plot points or things like that away. And then I will let you know, I'll give you a big old warning when we're going to the spoiler section, and then if you haven't seen the movie or don't like things spoiled for you, you may tune out and wait till you see the film. Alright, so, spoiler-free, my impressions of Alita. Damn! I mean, coming from, I didn't know anything about this movie before it came out. I honestly had seen like a poster for it at a bus stop or something. I've been really busy, haven't gone to the movies a lot lately, which makes me very sad. Haven't seen a lot of trailers lately, so I knew nothing about what I was expecting going into it. Heard a little buzz here and there, saw a lot of positive reviews on the internet, or didn't even watch them because I didn't want any spoilers, but saw a lot of people were reviewing it positively, speaking highly of it. Had some friends go see it saying it was great, and I'm like, all right, well, let's go check it out. Let's go take a look. Worst that happens is it sucks. And I go into films like this, I have studied film, so I go in very critically when I watch a movie, and I overall came away very impressed. There is a lot going on in this film. This film really, it seems like from the get-go that it's going to be in danger of biting off more than it can chew, and it really almost does. It really, really almost does. Because you're setting up a whole new world, right? We're talking massive world building and sort of future, semi-post-apocalyptic, somewhat future dystopian. It's cyberpunk is the aesthetic that they're going for here and succeeding at and nailing. Where we're talking about a city that exists underneath. There's a floating city in the sky. We understand that this city in the sky, Zalem, is the last floating city left. They were all destroyed 300 years ago. So we need this setup. We need the understanding of something that happened 300 years prior in this big war that we eventually find out a little bit more about the players, and you really don't get a whole ton of background here. We just know that this happened, that this is the only Sky City left. Everything else, we don't really know much about the rest, what's going on in the rest of the world, which is okay, because there's no time to set that up, since the world they are creating for us is so rich. We have, down on the ground now, we have a very, like, underworldy feel. The rules don't really apply in the same way down here. It's a little rough, it's a little gritty. We've got the sport called motorball set up, which seems to be about grabbing a ball, beating the shit out of other people, and then putting the ball into a thing. So these are sort of the important elements we have. We get this balance of cyber people and regular people, and you learn quickly that cyber people have human brains. They're just, their bodies are all cybernetically enhanced and whatnot for whatever reason. And so we're brought into this rich, bizarro world from the get-go that actually, it's really nice the way that they're able to do that with us, because they're bringing Alita. She's a character who doesn't have any memory of her past life. She's a cybernetic character, a cyborg who has been reconstructed and doesn't remember what her past life was. So we get to learn. It's a really nice actual way to hide the exposition. We get to learn about this world through her eyes. So we're not feeling bored by like, oh, what's all this stuff, or these unnecessarily expository lines of, so of course because she doesn't know. She doesn't know anything. So we're able to go on this journey with her of discovery. That keeps everything interesting and alive, and seeing it through her perspective is a really nice way of building this big old rich world. Now, one of the things that does happen over the course of the plot for me is that we lose, because we don't really have time to get into it, we lose some understanding of this overarching good-evil struggle, of the larger power struggle, of what forces are at work here, of what this new world order really looks like, who the people in charge are, what their power is like, what that power dynamic is. We really don't get in depth on that. You kind of have to fill in the blanks. There's a little bit, so you lose a little motivation through that, but they kind of make up for that, I think, by building really, really rich individual characters, and have those individual characters have personal journeys, have arcs, have growth, have interactions that make sense, that affect each other, that change each other, and it's through those interactions and journeys that the motivations for the characters, that the driving, elements of the plot start to fall into place and make sense. So I think they do a good job. I would have liked to understand more. I mean, this is the kind of movie, and this unfortunate thing is, without a pre-existing franchise, you have to bank on one movie being successful, so they can't set this up. This would have been great as a trilogy, because you could have a whole movie to set up so much richness and so much background. It would have lent itself perfectly to a trilogy, because you had a whole movie to set up. You had a whole movie of the main action that they could have easily turned into an entire 2-hour event on its own, and then we skip a lot of time. There's a big time cut that would be really interesting as a build to a climax in a third movie. So as it is, they do have themselves set up nicely for a sequel. But I really think that the first two movies could have, I would have enjoyed them being two. Now, as it is, I think that they did an impressive job of how much they fit into that 2-hour film. It doesn't, it never drags. I mean, how could it? There's so much going on, but you don't feel like you're skipping too many important details. That's what I mean by they really build the characters richly, so we follow their journey. So even if we're missing out on some of the big overarching details of the world, we don't feel like we're skipping out on moments because they're really crafting each character's journey fully and richly from start to finish. So that's I really enjoyed that element of it, and words. Yeah, so I love the character. I love this character that we have, Alita, because she just from the get-go, and it's really interesting, they sort of do her animation style, trying to call out the anime that this is sourced from. So she's got the big eyes and little mouth and whatnot, which is sort of this, which is also known in the animation world as sort of the exaggerated trope of female beauty, which is so perfectly balanced against who Alita is as a character, where she's this explosive, violent, creature. She shows up in this world as a totally naive, innocent little girl who doesn't know anything or memory. She's a teenager, right? But she's drawn to violence, which they all justify in her backstory and things like that. But she's drawn to violence and aggression right from the get-go, and she just dives right in and isn't afraid to get her hands dirty, isn't afraid to take a hit and get up and keep on going. And it's so brilliant in this movie because she is. This movie has a hardcore, at its core, a solid feminist message in it without being SJW, which is brilliant. I mean, feminist in the sense of like what we used to think of as feminism, as a woman claiming her power, becoming a powerful female creature, not this idea of women are the best and men are stupid. You have evil women in this movie too. You have flawed women. You have just really different kinds of female characters. They're not afraid to be like, this woman's just an evil, angry bitch. And they're not afraid to dig into those complexities. They're not afraid to present you with this female character who's a total BA and doesn't apologize for it. And she's not a Mary Sue at the same time, which I was really worried about going in, because we're talking about a character that has these memories of how to fight and mess people up. So it's a delicate thing to have this and be able to craft this character without making her a Mary Sue, without actually watching her struggle, not just emotionally but physically. And this brings up the concern. Now I understand why everyone's comparing this to Brie Larson's character to Carol Danvers in Captain Marvel, because if you look at the comics, Carol Danvers is very much a Mary Sue, and her struggles all come from her emotional fucked upness and not from her actual inability, like her failings strength wise. And I think this movie does a nice job of actually building those failures and those weaknesses into that character and justifying all of the moments that they add and change to it organically. I think it really did a really nice job of that. I love the characters. I think it's great that they picked for Alita and for Hugo, who's the main guy in it, two characters who are a little less recognizable. They've played things before in the past, but they're not smashing A-list actors that we'll all recognize. I think it gives us a lot of opportunity to experience these characters as new people because we don't have pre-existing conceptions of who they are so much. I mean, then again, Christoph Waltz, who plays the guy who rebuilds her, is absolutely phenomenal. Jennifer Connelly is fantastic. The casting was right on. The soundtrack is great. The visuals are great. I recommend definitely seeing this in a theater with really, really good sound. I could see it being good on IMAX. I saw it in 3D. It was fun in 3D. Does it need to be? I don't necessarily know. I think if you have a really good sound quality, you're going to get everything you need from it. It's a ton of fun. I understand why critics are scoring it as they are. I mean, it has 60% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, which for the movie of its kind isn't bad. I think critics just don't like movies like this. And I can understand feeling like elements of the plot are shallow because you're rushing it along. But then aside from that, the audience score tells you everything you need to know. It's a ton of fun. You're gonna enjoy it. If you like a good action flick, you are going to enjoy this movie. There's no way you're not going to. It's well written. It's touching. It's fun. It doesn't have a whole lot of humor. It's not a lot of haha moments, but it's a good time. It's a good watch. All right, so now the spoiler section. This is really not a 50-50 because I have very, very few in the spoilers. It was just that some of my biggest critiques of the movie come from things that are spoilery. So if you haven't seen it, if you don't want spoilers, stop watching. My two biggest critiques, two things that bother me a lot were, again, as I was talking about the pacing, so we get to the end and there's a huge time jump between the main like heart-wrenching moment, which is that Hugo, who she's fallen in love with, dies and ends up dying, and she's now on her revenge kick to go fight the boss man, but there's just no time to put that in there, so they set you up for a sequel by showing how she's going to get there, and basically the next movie we presume will be her going to fight Nova, and her discovering Zalem and what it it looks like, and that's the Sky City and all that stuff. So there's a lot to look forward to, and I look forward to that. But again, that's why I'd say it would have been better as a trilogy, because your first one could have been her setup, her understanding of the world, like her bringing into it, could have ended somewhere around her becoming a hunter warrior. And then the second one could have been like her crusade, you know, her beating Grishka, all that fighting, Hugo becoming cybernetic and you know, becoming a cyborg himself, and then learning how to deal with that. And maybe that the second movie would have ended with him dying, and the whole third one would have been this build to the revenge and how she gets there, and then watching the whole climax that would have been watching the revenge. But instead, we kind of skip along ahead in the plot, and our third one is going to be actually getting that revenge. And it's going to be difficult for them because they skip so much to show us that last visual that unless they backtrack and want to like could go back in time for a sequel and show us a little bit of her getting there first, which would be fun. I think we could all stand to watch Alita wreck people in Motorball. They're gonna have their work cut out for them building as rich of a story without a bunch of fluff on her quest to seek revenge on Nova. So my other big thing that bothered me, and again, I think this is just the timing of the story and what they were able to do, what they would have done had they done a longer piece. You know, I think the end of the first one might have ended with, you know, Hugo almost dying the first time. Because I really hate when movies do this, when they make a whole big deal about going like through hoops to save someone's life, and then a scene later they kill them, which is what they do with Hugo. And it's just like, I wish they hadn't, you know, because you lose some, you retroactively lose some of the weight of him being saved in the first place. You're like, well, what the hell was the point of that if he was just gonna die anyway? So that bugged me. I hate when movies do that. Except when it's funny, and this one wasn't funny, so sometimes it happens that it's funny. They're like, oh, he's back, die. That's okay with me. This didn't work for me in that way. So those are my two biggest criticisms, were some of the way they handled the ending. I don't mind the cliffhanger. I don't mind, you know, getting set up for a sequel. I'm very excited to see more in this universe. I wish they had the freedom to trust that they could have made a trilogy. They could have built this into a trilogy, because I think that storytelling, pacing-wise, it would have been served better that way. We'd have more weight, more gravitas. Again, if you could turn, you know, Hugo into a cyborg at the end of the first one, and have a lot of the second movie being about him, or like leave the first one on the cliffhanger if we don't know if he's gonna live or not. You know, he comes back as a cyborg, so learn how to be a cyborg. He dies at the end of the second one. Now you have a lot of now you have that storyline's been drawn out a lot more. You have a lot more feeling involved in that. The second one could have its relationship issues of the fact that his cyborg body can't feel the way that hers can. You know, it could have been really. There's a lot more they could have done with it that they just didn't have the time or the freedom to do, not knowing whether or not this first one was gonna succeed. But anyway, so that's my take on Alita. Really fun. Excellent job of building a strong, badass female character that's not SJW, that's not a Mary Sue, that doesn't take a movie and is like, feminism over your head. It's just a great movie with a strong female lead, and that's what a feminist message in a movie is supposed to be. It's supposed to just be a strong female character in a leading role that we all love and get behind, because she's a well-written character. It doesn't matter that she's male or female. It matters that she's a good, well-written character, and we're all on board because she is. And we don't have to be, no one has to be like, oh my god, look, it's a female hero. We're just on board because she's a good character. So that's all. Anyway, if you like this, there's a button for that. Press that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share this video. Really, guys, sharing helps so much more than you know. It's crucial. Every little thing you do, commenting on the video, all of these things really, really help get the word out there. If you love this channel, click get involved with me. That video will tell you all the different ways you can help support this channel. I got new t-shirts coming your way very, very soon. You can hook up with me on Patreon. It's a ton of fun over there, and just all sorts of things. Follow me on all the social medias, and we'll talk again really, really soon. So, bye.